Bertha, thank you very much. We'll be watching later today. Joining us right now from Washington is Republican Representative Michael Burgess from Texas. He's a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee. He's also the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigations. And, sir, thank you for joining us this morning.
I'm glad to be with you. My pleasure.
BP has been saying at this point it's a little too soon to know who caused this, if it could have been prevented. What's your take on the situation?
You know, when they we had the first meeting with the principals, BP, Transocean, Halliburton, several weeks ago, kind of given the impression that this was something that happened within the span of just a few moments, and there was really no way to prepare for it or anticipate it. But really what we've learned is there were indications going on for weeks and probably for months that this was a well that was difficult to control. There were multiple gas kicks. And were the issues that were related in your opening piece regarding the rapidity with which they wanted to get this thing done and move off this hole onto another one, did that play a role? And really that's the question that's on all of our minds. We've learned a great deal, in fact, about the technical aspects of things like single casings and double casings and cement bond logs, thief zones and that sort of thing. But really it appears that the indications were there. And, you know, a week and a half ago we were down at a hearing in Chalmette, Louisiana, heard from two of the ladies who lost husbands on the Transocean and that worked for Transocean on the Deepwater Horizon, and their question was, wait a minute, our husbands went through all of this training, all of these safety drills, all of these fire drills. Why was ultimately safety sacrificed for speed when there was such an importance placed on safety during their training?
I've seen some of the evidence you talk about, some of the letters that were sent back and forth, some of the testimony about how it seemed that profit was very important and was a key in driving some of those decisions. Is there anything that Tony Hayward could say to you to convince you that that's not the case?
You know, I don't know, because although this will be, I believe, Mr. Hayward's first appearance before our committee, this is not the first time we've heard from BP about problems they've had with their governance and with their corporate culture, if you will. They had a bad spill up in Alaska in 2006, and we spent hours in a hearing there. And again, it was the same themes that seemed to emerge. There was not time to do it right, and we just don't know when we're going to find time to do it over, and then ultimately a spill happened.
There have been many other oil executives, though, that have testified before Congress this week and in prior weeks, and it seems that just about every one of them has blamed BP, said they're furious with BP, they should have done something differently, and that their companies do not have the same practices, that they do things a little better. Is it your sense that that's the case, or is it your sense that this is an industry-wide problem?
You know, that's an interesting question, and on Monday, or Tuesday rather, we did hear from several of the CEOs from ExxonMobil, Shell, ConocoPhillips, and Chevron, where they're at the dais along with BP's Mr. McKay. And one of the things that you did hear was that they did do things differently. Only one of those executives had actually ever worked on a rig when I asked the question of, have any of you ever spent time? And that individual was also the only one who said that he had shut down a well that wasn't behaving properly, because ultimately it's about control when you're drilling a well. If you don't have control, you're not going to bring the product in, and ultimately the well's either not going to be successful or you're not going to make a profit.
So again, though, your sense from talking to them, I guess you're unclear because a lot of them had not worked on the rigs, didn't necessarily have firsthand experience?
Well, I don't know that I can say with the same confidence about everyone there, but certainly one of the CEOs did seem to have firsthand experience of being on the rig, and I believe made the comment that if you go fast, you could get someone killed. And because he'd worked on the rig, I think he knew exactly what he was talking about.
In the past, when we've seen catastrophes like this, you do see in the years afterwards, or at least at the immediate time afterward, that there is a much greater focus put on safety and put on making sure that everything is going to be done to the letter of the law and beyond. That tends to fade with time. What's your sense of how you keep that focus and how you make sure that a problem like this does not happen again?
Well, and that brings up the issue of the federal role and the federal culpability in this spill that we have today. And where were the federal regulators who were responsible for the periodic inspections of the rigs, the inspections of the blow-up protectors, doing all of the things that are supposed to be done to ensure safe drilling in what, after all, are federal waters and oil that belongs to the federal government? Where were the federal inspectors, and what was their role? On our committee, unfortunately, we've had plenty of time to executives, but we had one brief opportunity to talk to someone from Minerals and Management Service, but then she resigned on the morning that she was to give her testimony. We had a stand-in from the Department of Interior who stayed for one question from the from the chairman of the committee, and then that was about it. So we really haven't had a chance to really talk to the folks who were in charge of the inspections and the oversight of this well, or all these wells, in fact. And then here we are with a moratorium on not just deep water, but shallow water. And what didn't hurt the economy with the spill, or what hasn't hurt the economy with the spill, we're now killing with a moratorium. So we've dealt a double death blow to the poor people in the Gulf.
All right, Congressman Burgess obviously will be watching this later today, but we appreciate your time ahead of the hearing.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, the break.